Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It's Tuesday, the 25th of August. We're delighted to have your company. Don't forget, like, share and follow us across our Facebook, and you can subscribe by hitting the red button to subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. Great to have your company. Alan Rough, Darren Jackson and Alison McConnell are here with me. Lots to talk about. The Scotland squad has been announced. Here's a quick look at that squad that Steve Clarke has selected. Marshall, McCrory, McLaughlin, Cooper, Gallagher, McKenna, O'Donnell, Palmer, Andy Robertson, Greg Taylor, Tierney, Armstrong, Christie, Fleck, Jack and McGinn, McGregor, McLean, McTominay, Burke, Dykes, Forrest, McBurney and Shanklin. And the name that screams out at you there, Darren Jackson, is Lyndon Dykes. He's in for Scotland. Give us your reaction.
Well, I've said it on the show before, Peter, that I like Dykes. I think I was quite ignorant, and I hold my hand up that when he first got mentioned for the Scotland squad, I hadn't seen him, and I just thought, just come from Queen of the South, playing for Livingston, no, I can't see it. And I went to watch him, and I think I went to watch him in the 2 Livingston games at Livingston against Celtic, and I thought, and at the Kilmarnock game, and I thought, very, very, very good. I mean, he wins everything in the air, Peter, and if he doesn't win it, the centre-half doesn't win it. He holds it up, he brings people into play, and he's quick. He's not just a big centre-half that you throw the ball up and he's going to knock it on and then that's it. I think at Livingston it's a little bit harder, but he needs to add a few more goals to his game, which he started at the weekend for Queen of the South and scored one and set up 2. But I've been a fan. People have asked me my opinion, and I think definitely for Scotland. Now, whether he's going to go right in, but he gives us that other option, that he can hold the ball up. He can let us get up the pitch, get the midfield players. You would probably have to change the system with him. I don't know if you could just play one through the middle because you've maybe not got that real goal threat. But if you get people around about him, the John McGinns, once Griffiths is hopefully fit, Callum McGregor's, Christie's, get people around him that he's going to lay things off. I think it's a great addition.
Well, the big question is, obviously, was he going to select Australia or indeed plump for Scotland, and would it be a short-term fix? Who had the real drive in this one? Did the manager really put the squeeze on him? Well, according to Steve Clarke, the answer to that is emphatically no. What he did say was the choice was all about the player.
No, I spoke to Lyndon a long time ago now, before the potential fixtures in March of this year. And we discussed a lot of things. Lyndon was very honest. He had obviously had a chance to go and play for Australia as well. We had a good chat, a good honest chat. He gave me his thoughts, I gave him my thoughts on what would be best for him. And thankfully he's named in the squad.
Well, that's the key to this, Roughie. The last thing you want is Lyndon Dykes just to be this kind of a short-term hit for the boy. He's just got to step up there and try and do the business on a regular basis. It's up to him now.
Yeah, it's good that he's made the commitment, and I think the more sort of squads he turns up at, he'll see, that who he's mixing with and the enjoyment of going to the training with all the different players. He won't know most of them, he's never spoken to any of them, so it'll be a new thing for him. So I'm like Darren, as I said, I've seen him year on year for the past 3 years. He has become a very good player. It just remains to be seen, can he go another level? I mean, we've seen a lot of players at international level just been dropping short of what we're looking for, but we're not obliged, to have that many strikers that we can say no to him, and if it is a hit, then it's a great hit, because it's some of the big ones, the McBurneys and all them, they just haven't done it for me. So why not give him a chance and let's see where we go for there.
Yeah, in a strange sort of way, though. I mean, Steve Clarke did highlight at the press conference that I watched, Alison, that you can't forget Ollie McBurney. He's made himself available on a regular basis. I think sometimes we can be a wee bit quick and dismissive of people. I mean, we've always equated Ollie McBurney with this £20 million price tag and whether he's really up to it. But he's always made himself available. He's had a few little glitches here and there, but he still wants to play.
You don't knock that, and I think you want to keep people sweet. The last thing Scotland needs is to be too selective and turn your back on people or scunner them from wanting to be part of the squad. But at the same time, you also can't afford to overlook any quality that's there. And I think the season that Dykes had last term brought him to the forefront, and coupled with the fact that Lee Griffiths has faded from the first team picture at Celtic, I think it just accelerated Dykes into that role. And to be honest with you, I don't think anyone would have been too surprised to see him in there today. Obviously, once the decision had been made that he was willing to play for Scotland and willing to give his affiliation to Steve Clarke rather than to Australia, then I think he was a clear choice to go in and take that role. And it'll be interesting to see how he steps up to it.
Yeah, that's a good thing about it. I mean, he's got a bit about him. Hi to so many people joining us from all over the place. Portugal, no less. Great to have Portugal, people on holiday, obviously. And, of course, people out in America joining us on the programme. We've got sunny Govan. No, it's not sunny today, let me tell you. But nevertheless, so many people joining us from down in England as well on the programme on Facebook. We'll give as many of you a mention as we possibly can, and on our YouTube channel as well. Hit the subscribe button and join the football family. As we mentioned there, it'll be good to see what Lyndon Dykes offers. Do you think he's going to be a good acquisition for Scotland at international level? Give us your thoughts on Lyndon Dykes. Obviously that big move to QPR as well. It's all happening for the boy. Let's hope he can step up to the plate. And let's hope, Darren, I know I've highlighted it at the start there, but it's down to the player and his application. I get that, but we want to see it being a long run. We want to see him hopefully come in, as Roughie says, get to a certain level and get a run of maybe 5 or 6 or 7 caps. You know, just I'd hate it to be one of these situations where someone threw the accusation out later. Oh, they only gave him 1 cap just to deny Australia the chance to get the boy.
I don't think Stevie Clarke would do that, Peter, but that depends on how he does with QPR. Now he's been given the chance. Stevie Clarke's already had a good chat with him. He wants to come and play. He's made himself available and he's put him in the squad. Now, when things start up, it's up to him to go and produce for QPR and do the things that he does best. And obviously, hopefully add more goals to his game. And then it gives him a chance to say, the manager, well, I'm ready, I'm scoring goals, I'm playing in the English Championship, it's a good standard. I can compete against good players in this league, and I'm ready to give it a right good go.
Yeah, well, I'm still taking a wee bit of credit about it, Roughie. I think once we got him to say, "Gonna geese a sluggy or ginger," I think that really kind of swayed him towards Scotland. Yeah. That was the day when I think he'd blue hair when I interviewed him. By the time he'd moved on, he had rainbow hair, and who knows what else. He loves courting a little bit of controversy. Some players do that. I mean, Djibril Cissé used to do that as well. There's a number of players who feel comfortable, Darren, just painting their hair and courting a bit of, Pogba does it. I don't know about you, but listen, if you've got that swagger, go on and do it.
If you're one of the best players in the world like Pogba, you can probably do what you want, but I just think when he was going through his hard time, just concentrating on football rather than dyeing your hair and getting all shapes and like 10-year-old boys get shapes in their hair. He's an older, more. You know what I mean? But just go and let your because there's no doubt Pogba's a wonderful player, but you're just bringing more attention to yourself when things aren't going well.
Have you been getting a bit of flack, Darren, for painting your hair silver? I mean, is there a lot of flack coming for that? Is that you just decided I don't care?
Oh, natural, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you when you had the dark flowing hair, pouncing about in the nightclubs. Brilliant.
The wedge.
Anyway.
Which one of us are you speaking to?
No, Alison, I can't remember you in a nightclub. I couldn't stay that long to drink that long, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, Darren with the wedge, Roughie, in the nightclubs, thinking he was Dan the man. There's nothing worse, is there, Roughie?
Yes, the Dan the man.
Oh no!
No, he must have done. Must have done well.
Not as desperate as Bonzo, by the way. He'd wait right to the very end.
You must have done well, Darren, being able to stay up at 2 in the morning in nightclubs with you. Did you not drink at all? Did you just hang about when you're drinking? Just to stay awake?
I used to trapdoor. I did that from an early age, trapdoor, and I've carried it on through my career.
Yeah. By the way, wait you see this. The minute we ask Alison about her early life in nightclubs, she puts a straight face on and a straight bat, by the way. She doesn't want to give an inch of the early life of McConnell. Anyway, hi from Atlanta. Catherine, that's great to have you with us. Catherine Holton, hail from Atlanta, she says. Clearly a Celtic fan. But we've got lots of people joining us from all over, and it's really nice. Catherine joins us as well from Atlanta. I don't think we've had that before. So, with that in mind, Steve Clarke now looking towards in Israel. We should be setting up a league with Israel because we seem to be drawing them in everything. Playoffs, Nations League as well. And certainly with this match coming up against Israel in the Nations League and the one against the Czech Republic, Steve Clarke is hoping he can build a bit of confidence in the side. Of course, he'll have to do it without any fans.
It's going to be different. The good thing is that all the players will be used to it. It'll be a different event for me because it'll be the first time that I've taken charge of a team behind closed doors, if you like, for such important games. But I'm sure I'll adapt. I'm sure I'll get on with it, and it would be great to have the fans there. Obviously, everyone knows what I think or what we think of the Tartan Army. They're a great following. If we could get some in for October, it would be great. But listen, we'll be guided by government, UEFA, all the officials. They're doing the best they can in difficult times to make the right decisions.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can get fans in. OK, there will be undoubtedly in tomorrow morning's papers, Roughie, a few little grumbles about players that have been left out and some players who are in and wondering where they're going to play. So let's answer that question. I think, only because I had a chat with the manager, I think Kieran Tierney will play left centre half.
Yeah.
I would like to think, as Dan said, that we could feel strong enough to play a 3-5-2. And looking at that squad you put up there, I think there are some centre halves who are possibly a wee bit better now than we thought maybe 6-7 months ago. The boy Cooper has obviously done particularly well. Boy from Motherwell's done as well. If we can get a 3, we've certainly got 5 midfielders that can cause people trouble. And we've already spoke about Dykes. If we could get somebody up there with him that can score goals, I think it looks a lot healthier than what it did. I mean, obviously this virus came at the wrong time for everybody, but from a footballing point of view, it's maybe came at the right time for us because I think we look a lot better squad than what we did 4 and 5 months ago.
Tierney, left centre half, Dan?
Yes, Peter. I think he will be definitely left centre half. Now, I think if we could possibly get to a 3. Now, do I think Andy Robertson's better as a left back or a left wing back? He is better as a left back, but he's a good enough player to try and adapt for Scotland because we need that. But if you had, say, Cooper, McKenna and who's the other one? Cooper, McKenna and centre half.
Tierney, you're going to play a 3.
Tierney. Sorry, Tierney.
Yeah.
So you've got that as a 3, and you've got the 2 wing backs, and the three in the middle are excellent. And then you've got someone playing off Dykes. I think you've got a chance, but I think he will definitely be left-sided centre half, but it's in a 3 or a 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as Callum McGregor's concerned, he wants to be involved in that midfield that Darren's talking about on a regular basis. And he says nothing would please him more than going to a major finals with Scotland.
Like you said, I've tasted success at Celtic and can continue to do that. The hunger's there to do that, and like you said, to add a major tournament into that with Scotland would be incredible. And like you said, it'd be a build on everything that I've achieved so far. So, like I said, that's very much at the forefront of my mind as well to give everything for Scotland and like.
You might not have thought about this, Alan. Alison. It's an absolute disaster that we've got 2 people on our panel, Alison, that know what it's like to be in a World Cup. Darren's the last man to be in a World Cup for Scotland, and we all know Roughie's history.
I actually was just thinking there when I was watching Callum McGregor's interview that probably would have been starting primary school the last time Scotland were at a World Cup. There are 2 entire generations who have never seen Scotland at a major international tournament.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there. I think if he wasn't starting primary, he was certainly maybe at kindergarten when Jackson was there, winking to the camera in the lineup in the game against Brazil and France. But I mean, that's the thing about it, Darren. Everybody's just itching to be a team that can get there. You know, when Roughie was talking about the 3 World Cups that he was at. We were complaining because we weren't getting out of the group. Now we're longing just to get to a group.
I know it is sad, Peter, to think that it's been that long. I know how lucky I was. Roughie was at 3, which is just incredible. I was lucky that I played in an absolutely fantastic team, and it's sad. People think you maybe don't want me to get there because you're the last person. I want to go to a World Cup with my son. I want to go and be a Scotland supporter and go abroad and when everything's obviously okay and support the country because it's just an amazing, absolutely amazing occasion. So hopefully, as you say, we've missed out a generation with people like Ferguson, Fletcher, Scott Brown who have missed out, and it's heartbreaking for boys like that who should have played at a tournament. So hopefully we can get together. I think Roughie was 100% right. The COVID has just been a nightmare for millions of people. But I think from Scotland's point of view, it was at the right time where we got the Kieran Tierney's, McKenna was injured, we've got people back fit. The only one I think, and people think I'm being biased, and whether he will get back, but hopefully he will, we need a Griffiths in there as well.
Yeah. I'm looking there at Callum Reynolds, who says kindergarten, Peter. You know, so clearly, so sounds a wee bit American. I don't know why I mentioned that, Roughie, but nevertheless, I've been kind of just cajoled into mentioning that sort of thing now because of school with my daughter. But anyway, it's the 21st century. And Callum McGregor, okay, he wasn't at school, he was maybe at nursery. I'll change the line on that one. Thanks, Callum, for giving me pelters for it. As far as some of the players that are not there, Roughie, Ryan Fraser, he said, has informed him that he's not at a level of fitness at the moment because he's still looking for a club. We've got Morgan and Russell who won't be selected because obviously there's still this quarantine situation. And then after that, you've got Stevie Naismith and Craig Gordon. If only Richard had a good first touch, he might be in there as well. But anyway, Craig Gordon. So, Roughie, I think probably some people might be a little bit miffed about Stevie Naismith and that, but I'm not so sure. Hearts haven't really got a chance to train yet.
No, you have to feel sorry for the Hearts boys, because let's be honest, if they weren't where they were, they would be in the squad. I saw Craig Gordon a couple of interviews there. He's wanting back in there. He's wanting to try and challenge for more caps, and it'll be a hard one for the two of them to get their head round. No fault of their own. It's obviously circumstances as it is. And obviously with the league not starting until the 17th of October for them, I don't think the manager could have picked them. But it just gives other people a chance to jump ahead of them, particularly the young goalkeeper. You know, they've taken him along. He seems to be one for the future. So it'll be a blow for Craig, because Craig obviously took a massive step to leave Celtic to go to Hearts. And this is sort of a put him on the back foot as it stands just now.
Yeah, another thing about it we've got to look forward to, Alison, is the likes of Billy Gilmore. And, you know, that would be a huge bonus. Yeah, I mentioned the likes of Billy Gilmore would be a huge bonus. If we can get him suddenly doing it for Chelsea, that would be sensational. So give us your thoughts on that Scotland squad. I've had a look at it. If you want to have a look again, is there anybody there that you think from the squad you can maybe see on the screen just now that should be in, that hasn't been in? Is there a favourite player there that you think should be in? I mean, I did mention, Alison, there only moments ago, Billy Gilmore is possibly one that we will be looking to try and emerge this season as a regular, hopefully, if he's doing it for Chelsea.
Yeah, it was so disappointing for him when he got the injury, because I think there was a lot of excitement towards the end of the season, the way he'd been performing down south, the way he'd been playing for Chelsea, the way he just acclimatised to that level. I think that there's always a question mark when you have that potential about whether or not you're able to do it under pressure and you're able to do it in a first team environment. But certainly the glimpse that we got in the latter months of the campaign, it augurs well for Scotland first and foremost. And I think many of us would love to have seen him go in. This time a year ago, I was urging caution because you felt as though you didn't want to put the boy under too much pressure and give him too much expectation going into an international setup when he hadn't played much first team football. But having seen him now and having heard of so many people speak highly of him and the mentality that he's got, I think he looks as though he's mature enough, as though he's ready for it. So now really just be a question of fitness more than anything else.
Roughie, I'm looking here at Hugh Scott, who says, who do you think will start in goal for Scotland?
Oh, it's got to be David Marshall. David Marshall has done nothing wrong. Okay, he's been trying to find a club for a wee while. He'll want to get obviously match fitness like anybody, but I think joining up with the squad, I don't think he would leave him out at all. So it's David Marshall for me.
Okay, yep, and we will obviously get some of your thoughts on this across YouTube and Facebook and read them out. But that's your Scotland squad for you. That's
Peter.
What we've got to look forward to. Darren?
And I just think another player that we've missed is Mikey Johnson at Celtic, who, along with Billy, is a huge prospect. And I think if Mikey's fit, I think he'll be in the Celtic team, which obviously puts him in contention for the Scotland team. I think Mikey will become a big player for Celtic and Scotland, as I say, along with Billy.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about another player that I would have loved, and I always keep an eye on him, thinking to myself, I always think about you actually when I look at him, is Ryan Gauld.
Ronaldo.
No, I don't think of Ronaldo at all, by the way. Which one? One of your
Anyone.
Yeah, Ryan Gauld is one that I would have loved to have seen develop and do something for us.
Like we used to watch him training, and I'm not kidding. At the time, all the players were in awe of the wee man. He was just incredible, and I'm not saying he's lost his way. He went to Portugal and all that. I mean, people used to call him the mini Messi now, whether that played on, but he was in training. He actually played that way, that the exact same as Messi, that just people thought they were getting there, and he would just go between 2 players, 3 players, and just slot in the net, just so composed, and it really hurts me to think that he's not kicked on, and this should be the level that Ryan plays at, because he is like a Billy, he is like a Mikey Johnston, who does thrive on the big occasion and can handle the big occasion. And it does hurt me that the wee man's not kicked on the way he should have.
Yeah, absolutely. Just thinking about him there as I look at some of the players and the players that we hope can emerge and get us to a major finals. Roughie, I just wonder about you. Are you filled with optimism for the next couple of matches coming up? Czech Republic on the horizon, Israel in the Nations League.
Yeah, I'm a wee bit disappointed, obviously, that there's no crowd in the stadium. I tend to think that favours Israel more than us. They're going to come and get a free hit, no pressure on them. But again, it's up for us to perform. We know how much our fans, with 52,000 in there, whatever it is, can actually lift the whole nation. But I think it's always intimidating if you go away from home and there's maybe 60,000, 70,000 in there. It puts you on the back foot for a wee bit. But any club now coming to a stadium that's going to be empty, I think would relax a lot more than what they would have been if there was a big crowd in.
Yeah, and I've just got to mention Kevin McFarlane, who says, don't forget Ryan Porteous from Hibs. We're not. I really hope Ryan Porteous does emerge as a centre-half and give us a serious option. He's such a good lad, good player, and I hope he can develop even further to that level. That's Scotland for you. There's the small matter of Champions League second qualifier for Celtic coming up tomorrow. Neil Lennon was speaking about it. Of course, as ever, he's ducking and diving on players coming and going. The one thing, Alison, if you were a punter reading anything on social media to the newspapers, you would think Celtic was signing another 19 players before the window closes, because I'm hearing that many names. I mean, the one thing I always try to do, from day one, it's just your basic training, Alison, is check the source, check, with the club, check with the, you try and cross-reference everything to make sure what's got a bit of credence. The one thing that is credible at the moment is the fact that David Turnbull could be a Celtic player before Motherwell kick a ball against Glentoran.
Yeah, that's the one that seems right. But like you, I felt as though I was using up all my credits trying to check how many names Celtic were linked with over from the weekend on. I think there's been at least half a dozen. The latest one today was the Turkey striker, which I actually think there's no real traction in. But yeah, there's been so many, Hickey and Turnbull, but the Turnbull one looks definitely like the most plausible one. I was actually at Fir Park on Saturday. And I fear for Motherwell because he was their only shining light against Hamilton. He was the only player showing any creativity, who had anything about him. And you fear for them if and when they're going to lose him. For the boy himself, you have to say you're delighted for him, because what a feeling that must have been a year ago when you're on the cusp of a move like that, and you've already been interviewed with the club TV channel. You're sitting being photographed with the manager in your kit, and then you get the news back that there's a problem showing up in the medical that you had no inkling of whatsoever. So I think you have to be pleased for the boy himself that he's been rewarded with the move. But I would fear for Motherwell this season if they lose him, given the early evidence that we've seen.
I was just going to say to Alison, where do you play him, Alison? Where does he fit into this setup?
This is a problem. I mean, he won't walk in. I don't think anyone at Celtic can be guaranteed a place to walk straight into the first team, but it's there for him. That's a challenge, to go and try and put pressure on the likes of McGregor and Christie in those central areas, I think.
Strangely enough,
I think it looks as though Roderick's away.
Yeah.
There's always been stories about in Cham. You never know what's going to happen. David Turnbull's not going to go in there and play right away, but with the three they've got, definitely not. But look how many games Celtic play a season. I still think David Turnbull could play 25 games, no bother. And I think that Celtic have Lenny's probably looked at the situation, Peter, and how the boys responded to that huge disappointment that Alison was just talking about a year ago. He's not just felt sorry for himself. The medical team at Motherwell have done a great job. I mean, even when you look at him, his upper body, he looks a lot stronger now, and his confidence, and that could have shattered someone thinking, I'm signing for Celtic. You know the kind of salary he's probably going to get, and then it's just taken away from you. And a lot of boys might not have recovered for that, but I think Celtic have probably looked at his desire to get back to where he was, and he's definitely done that.
No, I think Peter touched on it yesterday. I don't think we'll see Scott Brown playing the same amount of games that he played every season. I think the manager's going to have a word with him and say, look, there's a time when you maybe need a wee rest, and this is the ideal guy to maybe take over from you, because I'm looking. I know he's not up to speed just now, Scott Brown, but I mean, he's like any player, coming to an age, and the players run about him are all getting fitter and younger. I think this might be just the year that you say to him, look, I'm going to use you sparingly. It's a massive season. I'm going to play you in the games that I want to play you in, and you have to get your head around that.
I'm amazed you mentioned Scott Brown. I never brought him up yesterday. It was Tam McManus that brought him up. I don't think he's. No, I don't think he's. I don't think he's at fault for anything. I think he's. If Tam suggested he was a yard off it, and I thought to myself, it didn't look like a yard off it to me. I don't even know why anybody brought him up. I think he's an easy target on this one. I think he drives the team at the moment, if anything else. I think Scott Brown has been subbed a couple of times when it's like 75-80, the game's won, and the manager just thinks, well, get him off and save his legs, and give somebody else a run out. In Cham, it's going to be very difficult to accommodate because, quite simply, at Alison, he comes on and he looks the part. He looks as if he's, it's his time to get regular football. That's the big dilemma for me.
I think if you were Neil Lennon, you're looking at Cham and you're thinking, one, why are you not getting it every single week? Because he comes on sometimes and he has an exquisite touch. He plays with an elegance and a grace in certain games, and he responds well the high to the high caliber games and the high pressure games. But I think you just need more consistency from him. I think sometimes he feels like a luxury player, maybe. Rogic, I think, definitely looks as though maybe, his 7-year association with the club would be up. And I know that Celtic have always been well stocked in central midfielders for the last few years, but I definitely think there is a place for Turnbull there. I think he's a very exciting young talent. And I think too, if you look at it, Callum McGregor and James Forrest have been among the top performers in European football for minutes for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Callum McGregor, I think, was playing something like 60 odd games per season over the last 3 seasons. There comes a point where you have to look at that and say it's not healthy, and inevitably you're going to have injuries and you're going to exacerbate any lingering problems without having adequate recovery. So I definitely think that there's a place for Turnbull there.
Yeah, okay. Dan?
Peter, I think with Scott, I think you're right. It's the easy option because you get to a certain age, people think you're old, and if you miss time a tackle or someone runs by you, oh, he's finished. There's no way. I mean, I told you that Tommy Johnson was down at Loughborough and he saw the squad and he couldn't believe what shape Scott was in and how much he had looked after himself in lockdown. But what Scott has is a presence on the pitch that none of them have as a captain. They all look up to him, and that presence on the pitch is bigger sometimes than something, say, he's passing or whatever else he's doing.
I'll tell you one thing.
I think you heard his I think you heard his influence loud and clear on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Boy, can he swear. I mean, everybody got it. I mean, that's what I love about the guy. I mean, he's absolutely. Absolutely. He reminds me of, and I can still say his name because even though he's gone, but he does remind me of Barry. Barry Ferguson in Rangers was absolutely on everybody's case. If they weren't doing the business, he was on their case. Whatever happened to him? Anyway, Scott Brown's still a good player, and lots of people are saying, Dave Edwards says, Father Time catches up with everyone, Peter. Of course, Father Time does indeed catch up with everyone, Dave, unless you're the Portuguese Ronaldo, because I don't know what he's drinking, Roughie, but boy, he looks good the older he gets, doesn't he? I mean, he's just gone into another level. I mean, he must have a nutritionist, guys who keep him fit. He's doing something. He just defies science.
Yeah, I think we've all seen the documentary. It's just unbelievable, what he puts himself through, his lifestyle. And I think he has got a nutrition living with him morning, noon and night. And you can see, I mean, me and Darren looked like that as well when we had the physio at the club.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Darren obviously had a nutritionist staying with him, and then he decided not to marry her, married somebody else. To be honest with you, and I'm not going to go there with you, Ali. Don't want to get in trouble with your husband. Just one thing: Celtic Ferencvaros, Ali. Is this a step up? Is this one that could be tricky, or it should be Celtic winning this one?
It's definitely trickier than the last. I mean, that first leg was like a training exercise. Within the first 2 or 3 minutes, you just knew the goals were coming. This is definitely a step up. I think it'll be a harder tie. You would expect Celtic to prevail. They ought to come through it. But I think at this stage, when it's still very early and you've not played a lot of games, I think there'll be a sense of trepidation going into it. There'll obviously be I think it works in Celtic's favour that they're playing in Glasgow, albeit there's no crowd, but they've had no travelling. And you would expect them to come through it. But the thing with the only one leg affair is that you can't have room for any slip-ups whatsoever. You can't have a fail here at all or a banana skin. You have to be thorough, you have to be professional, and you have to make sure you're on it from the first whistle.
Yeah, I like it. I like this little edge to it. It makes it a more competitive game in my mind. Some people might not agree with that. Just before we go on, we're going to talk about Rangers and Hibs as well. We're going to talk about UEFA and FIFA stories coming up. Give us your thoughts on anything you want to talk about on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share and follow on our Facebook page. You can click subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. And we're on Periscope on our Twitter at PLZ Soccer. If you download the app, all of this is at your fingertips. Simple as that. See how I put my hand up there and said it looks as if it's an app there. You know what you do, 2 syllables, all that stuff. Anyway, download it if you can. The one thing I was going to say, and it's just a rather sad note, and I don't know, over the last couple of weeks, it's kind of a people that you actually get to meet, and you've seen them play when you were a boy, and there's just an element of sadness. It's certainly the element of sadness when Tam Forsyth passed away last week, and of course, so many people out, applauding and cheering as his coffin and the cortege went past. I think it was Stonehaven where Tam's family and everybody were out to pay tribute to him. And then to find out in the last 24 hours that Pat McCluskey has sadly passed away. And I look at the age, Roughie, 68 is still young. He's passed away. He scored in the 1975 Scottish Cup final. He's 3 Premier League medals, and of course a couple of Scottish Cups and a League Cup as well. Sad to see Pat go, and from everyone in the football show, I think our condolences to his family and friends.
Yeah, I played with Pat in the Scotland under-23 sides. Quite ironic, I bumped into him 3 weeks ago down in Croy. I was down seeing Ronnie in Banton, and I bumped into him, and he was, as you would imagine, anybody knows Pat McCluskey, very talkative, always talking about the game. And correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, did he score in that Milan game a penalty? The one Dixie missed the penalty?
I couldn't give you the exact scorers, but that's typical of you. You want me to name every scorer from the Milan game.
No, it was just when I was talking to him 3 weeks ago, he said to me, everybody remembers Dixie's goal, but nobody remembers my penalty that night. And I never checked it up, so I'll take his word for it. No, I don't want to go down a case here because I've done it before. I think Pat McCluskey falls into the category that clubs should look after their players a wee bit more than they do. I'm not saying it's a big fault, but somebody should identify, past players and players who've served the club really well. When things aren't going particularly well, they could maybe help them out. And that's all I'm going to say in this one.
Okay, well, I have to say, I have actually on more than a few occasions, Roughie, seen Pat McCluskey at Celtic Park as one of the ambassadors. I don't know when that period was. I can't recall. As far as penalties are concerned, he did score a penalty in the 1975 Scottish Cup final in their 3-1 win over Airdrie. So, but listen, I'm sure that a lot of clubs would fall foul of not maybe checking up on great players of the past and maybe being attentive to their needs if they're down in their luck. I'm not going to criticise you on it. It's just something that I think a lot of clubs would fall foul of, and if it's Celtic in this case, then so be it. But for Pat McCluskey, certainly he'll be missed by a lot of the Celtic family who knew him well and played alongside him. Now, on to matters with regards to Rangers. Ryan Kent has told Steven Gerrard that he wants to stay. Leeds United may well come back in, Alison, and just tempt him again. 14 million is now the figure that's been talked about with regards to Ryan Kent. Does he just dig his heels in? If the player doesn't want to go, that's great news for Steven Gerrard.
I think it's easy to say at the minute. I think your resolve comes into question if a big money bid does come in, and Leeds situation, they're going back up to the top flight. They've got money there. If they were to come back in and put down 14 or 15 million pounds, I think it becomes very, very tempting, and I think it also becomes tempting for the player to think about the opportunity to go and play on that stage. And that's just the reality of where we are as a country in a league in comparison to south of the border. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. I think they would have to put serious money on the table to get him, but I just would not rule it out before the window closes.
Kenny Whitson has said on our Facebook page, Morelos doesn't want to go either. I think I might have to disagree with you on that. I think Morelos is desperate to go, Darren. But quite simply, when there was a period when he was absolutely looking as if he was ripe for selling for the right money, suddenly it's gone backwards because I just think the manager's not having his antics right now and they're trying to get him out.
Well, it looked as though that he had put on a couple of pounds, Peter, at the start of the season, and the manager probably just went with it and just said, right, we'll get him trained, we'll get him back to 29 goals before Christmas last year, Peter. The boy definitely knows where the net is, but I think that it comes a point where the manager has to make a stance in front of the other players. If he is not at the way he should be, if he's not training the way he should be, the manager has to make a stance, whether you want to get rid of him or whether you want to sell him or keep him. So he's obviously, Stephen's done that. He's just said enough's enough. I need players. We know what a massive season this is, and there can't be any slip-ups now. Luckily, both of them have had a couple of slip-ups at Kilmarnock and at Livingston, but there's going to be more. But we can't have slip-ups. And if I've not got a guy who's going to put his full weight behind this, like full weight and attitude behind everything this season, I can't go with him.
Peter, I was going to say, Rangers sell Morelos and they sell Kent. I'd love to know the guy who gets put up to tell the Rangers fans, okay, then we had to take the money, but he better have something else to say because, you know, as far as the Rangers supporters are concerned, that would be a massive blow.
Roughie,
these two
have
players
they're working in the background just now, working on players to come in. I don't know if they'll sell them both, but if they get a £14 million bid, but I think I think he's good where he's at. But now whether that's taken out his hands, but I think another year playing for Rangers or another 2 years playing for Rangers, I think he's at a good place for him just now.
Yeah, Ronnie Chapman says Alfredo will go and Kent will stay. What do you think, Ali?
I think you'd be better off now selling Morelos because once you have a player who doesn't want to be there and it's quite clear his mind is elsewhere, then I think you're far better off banking as much money as you possibly can and bringing in someone with a bit of hunger, a bit of desire, and obviously a bit of ability. But I think it's actually counterproductive to keep someone at the club who then becomes toxic in the dressing room because his face is tripping him and he wants away.
Andy Croy is a Rangers fan who regularly follows the programme. Thank you, Andy. He says Morelos' attitude is stinking. And this is the key to this whole situation. You know, Kent is a different, it's a different situation because he's a young boy. He's got a club interested, which is fine. But he wants to go and really do it on a regular basis for Rangers and hurt clubs when he's on that park and show his skill. Morelos is a difficult one because, Roughie, quite simply, they're in a balancing act here. When he hit 29 goals and the interest was on again in the January transfer window, Rangers couldn't do anything because if they sold him, they would have been annihilated because everybody was so het up about 9 in a row. So they couldn't sell him then unless they had cover, and they couldn't sell him because they wanted the right type of money. So there was the big dilemma then. Then he downed tools for whatever reason in Dubai, whatever happened, he downed tools. I think for a full 6 months, he has been a destructive element in that dressing room, whether it's sulking and arguing and getting booked or anything on the park. He's never been able to score the goals since January. Scored a couple against St Mirren, so what? But it's the attitude. When the manager eventually comes out and says, no, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to put you in the squad because you're not right. That's the other problem now, because now the fixation is with stopping 10 in a row and you've got to get him out the door for the right money again, and then try and get somebody in who can hit the ground running. You know, and Itten and Roof scored a goal, which is fine, but you've got to hope that if you get the money for Morelos, you get somebody of a comparable nature who can hit the ground running, because there's no margin for error. That's how I think this is an extremely difficult situation for Rangers with Morelos.
Yeah, no, I agree with Alison. You know, I've said 3 weeks ago he's got to go. You can't have somebody swanning about the dressing room that's not given 100%. And Darren's been there. We've all been there when there's been a player like that at a particular club. It just alienates everybody else. Somebody walking about thinking they're better than everybody else. So no, he's got to go. No, the scenario I was just throwing out, if they sold the two of them, what reaction the Rangers fans would have. And I'm sure it would be the same over at Celtic as well. If all of a sudden they announce, like, we've had a fantastic bid for Edward and we've had a fantastic bid for McGregor, we're going to sell both of them. You know, and I'm sure the Celtic fans would have something to say about that. That's just the scenario I'm throwing out there.
Yeah. Don't forget, if you are putting a point you disagree, because listen, not everything we say is gospel. That's the joy of football. You can agree or disagree. If you are going to disagree with any of our pundits, can you please put it across in a way that does not involve using gutter language? I'm just talking about John Ross. I'll just give you a mention, John, because as ever, every now and then I do leather a few people whose language is choice and leave a lot to be desired. And if you don't agree with Alison, then try and put it in a better way. I just thought I'd tell you that, Alison, because you won't be getting the full feed of people that come through. But the joy of it all is, I know you're thick-skinned and you can take pelters at the best of times. But if you are going to disagree with our pundits, please do it without using any language which is from the gutter. 99% of the people who follow our show are decent people who love their club and love to put their opinion across in a nice way. It's the only thing I'm saying to you. It's all about your upbringing. Simple as that. So you can disagree and give us pelters, but try not to use abusive language. On that point, will Morelos go? Will they get the right money? Only time will tell. If you're a Rangers fan, give us your view on that. Ryan Kent, is it a big season where he has to really take... I personally, Darren, want to see Ryan Kent shine on a regular basis. Now, I think if you're going to be considered a big player, you've got to grab a game, win games, assists, score goals that win games. Difficult games, you get the 1-0 and he scores the goals. That, for me, is a good player. And he has to step up.
100%, Peter. Now, we all know he has the ability. There is no doubt about that. But when you look at last year, he didn't have an assist. And playing for Rangers, that isn't good enough. That's where he needs to take himself to another level. And there's no doubt he's got ability. It's shown the way he started the season. Where, like, he finished on Saturday, people think, well, it's not, but his composure to pick the spot between, there was defenders in front of him, the goalkeeper couldn't see, but it's just the way he's picked his spot. And I've maybe been probably a little bit critical of him just because he needs to do more in games, because when you see people with ability, you think, I want more from you. I want go and take the game by the scruff of the neck. Go and win games for Rangers, maybe when they're not, like the chance he had against Livingston. He's unlucky, but the one on Saturday, he's tried to do, he's done the same thing, and he's finished it on Saturday. But that's all I'd say is, he has the ability in the last third to go and create and to go and score goals.
Do you think, Darren, that we should give him it? Do you think we should give him the benefit of the doubt? The first time he came to Rangers, he was just a young lad for Liverpool. We all know he had the ability and we know what he could do. And then all of a sudden he had a £7 million tag on him. And maybe that was just something he maybe just couldn't get his head round, but maybe he now is getting his head round it. And it's something a young player would have to deal with.
Yeah, you just have to deal with that, Roughie, but that's, as a player, you would maybe want to thrive on it, just saying, someone paid £7 million for me. I must be actually not a bad player. But I think he just has to do it. He has to do it on a consistency basis, and he's started the season really well, and he is a big player for Rangers.
Yeah, if I was, I always judge someone if you look at a player on the ball and you can sense fear from the opposition fans because they know that he can hurt you, then that's when you know somebody's doing it on a regular basis. I think he's got the ability to go and rip up defenders and go at them and do something special.
Peter, Peter, Lustig, when Mikey Johnston got pulled back, we were there. When Mikey Johnston got pulled back to try and double up on him, Lustig was terrified when he was running at him. So he's definitely, there's no doubt he's got ability. He just, as I said before, he needs to do it on a consistency basis.
Yeah, I was going to mention something about Lustig there, but I'll not bother on it. But you're absolutely right. Listen, a couple of things. Sean Anderson's a Rangers fan. He says, I would sell Morelos and sign another striker. We still have Defoe as well, and it looks like he's taking on his advice. So that's one. Owen McGraudle says 60 million for Kent and Morelos. Okay, Owen, all I would say to you is try not to have too much drink early on in the evening. By the way, wait till a wee bit later on, and then you have a few glasses of wine. I never like to go down that road, Roughie, when people start putting prices on players' heads, because I think we all go completely and utterly bonkers, and then it starts a full riot. Because, as you know, the great thing about living in Scotland is if there are two of us in a big giant room with no tables, no glasses, nothing, we can still start a fight. It's as simple as that. Anyway, I'm going to mention the Hibbies because I think it's only right and proper that I do mention this. Out with the, I saw this stat and I hope it stands up. I saw it, which is outside Celtic and Rangers. Jack Ross's Hibs have had the most points in the Premier League, Alison, and I think the Hibbies deserve tremendous credit. I still think there's more to come from them. I don't think they're firing on all cylinders yet, but great start.
I saw that stat too today, and it really caught my eye because it just underlines what Jack Ross has done since he got into Easter Road. I agree with you. I think they've had a fabulous start, but I still think there's more to come from them. I think they could be the real surprise package this season. I think that the way they've been playing is exciting. I like the attacking mindness that he's set in there. They're good to watch. They're an enjoyable team to go and look at, and there's always goals in them, you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I would say, Roughie, and I'd like Jack Ross to develop this, I wouldn't like him to lecture us all in talking up Scottish football just for the sake of it, because we're just not going to do that. We're going to be realistic about it. I'd like Jack Ross to develop the attitude that Neil Lennon had when he was at Hibs, which is quite simply, no, I'm not happy with the draw. It's just not good enough. Just keep that whole edge to it. I'd like a manager who have a bit of an edge to it. I'd love maybe for the Hibbies just to be able to add one or two more players that could give them that wee edge. We want a third force. We want somebody that's capable of beating Celtic and Rangers. And if it's Hibs, great. But I still think they're maybe one or two short.
Yeah, I agree with Alison. I think they could be the Motherwell this year. I think they could be the team that's up there for a long, long time. But you're right. Yeah, if that's the case, you're going to need 3 or 4 players. I don't know if the budget's there to do that. They certainly have got a lot of good players, and it just shows you how well they've come when Scott Allen's on the bench or Mallon's on the bench. It just shows you the variety that they've got. If they can keep certain players fit, obviously Boyle fit, if they can keep him fit, they've certainly got strikers who know the way to go. So, no, Evans doing particularly well at Hibs just now, and I'm sure if you're a Hibs supporter, you'll want it to continue.
Yeah, I suppose the key, Peter, is just keeping it together. The window's open until October. The last thing you would want is someone coming in and taking Boyle when you've got a fortnight left to go and try and source a replacement or something like that, and you're always susceptible to that.
Yeah, David Palfreman says St Johnstone got cheated. David, I have to say to you, it's a soft penalty. I'd have been going mental, Darren, if a penalty was given against me for the one that was given against St Johnstone for him to snatch the win. But the point is here, it's turning a 0-0 into a 1-0. It's that type of thing. And I sometimes think if you get special players, they can do that. They can turn 0-0 into a 1-0. I would, you'd put a good few quid on Stevie Mallon taking a penalty and scoring, no problem. But they need to do that. They need to steal 1-0 and scrap away and get a victory.
Oh, without doubt, Peter. And the biggest thing that Jack, he'll sit down with his staff and they'll look and say, we've actually not been at our best the last 2 games. Of Motherwell should have beaten them, and St Johnstone should have beaten them. They got away with the St Johnstone goal, and they got a soft penalty. But then you sit there and you think, right, we've not actually played the way we can, but we've won the games. So you take confidence from that. he'll be working on the things that they probably have not done as well as he had hoped. And so they've put themselves in a great position. But as you say, it's consistency, and it's when you're at a club like, well, apart from Celtic and Rangers, when you've not got a massive squad, it's keeping your main players fit. That's what will help you stay there consistently through the season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Roughie, early on, I've tipped Motherwell to finish third. I'm going to have to stick with it. I mean, the one thing that Alison mentioned earlier on there about, with Turnbull going, she fears for Motherwell. I actually don't. I actually think if he gets 3 million in, they'll go out and I think he'll try and buy a couple of strikers, one definitely, to try and bolster it, because, he said Tony Watt run about, but sometimes I've watched the manager play Tony Watt out in the left-hand side of the striking area. I don't think he's any good out there. I think Tony Watt's down in the middle, but they need to get Tony Watt, like others, needs to score, Roughie. So I think if they got 3 million, they'd go out and buy a striker.
Yeah, and if that was the case, they had money to play with. He certainly can identify a player for down south. He seems to have a good network down there. And I'm sure if he's got money to spend, he will try and push the ball out and get a better quality of striker. And they're a good side to watch as well, and I think if that was the case, and I think they're just one of these teams who need to start getting a couple of wins, and once they get a couple of wins, they'll kick on for there. I said right at the beginning, I didn't see them as the third team this year. I think that beyond expectations last year, it'd be difficult for them to maintain that. And I think that will be the case, but they'll definitely be top six, no problem.
Yeah, if they got 3 million for Turnbull, do you know who I would buy, Ali, if I was Motherwell? I would try, and I know it's a difficult one because he might be going for a few quid shortly, but look at Darren getting ready. Look at Darren smile there, waiting to see who I'm going to suggest. But I'll tell you who I would buy. Ross Stewart.
Yeah, I think there might be a few who go in for Ross Stewart, although I'm not sure what kind of fee. I think you'd maybe need to go upwards of maybe 2. I'm not sure. I saw a few comments coming out of Dingwall today just saying that they won't sell him, they won't let him go lightly, and you consider you're selling him to a rival team. But yeah, he's been excellent. He's been absolutely excellent. He did a great season last year.
Yeah.
And I think having watched Motherwell a few times, he just looks so toothless at times. For an hour on Saturday, Hamilton barely touched the ball. It was all Motherwell. Created a couple of chances, but they just, once they get to the final third, they're just bereft of any kind of creativity or any ideas.
Yeah, are you buying into that, Darren? Are you happy with my suggestion?
Ross, Stubbsy sold Ross to Ross County when we were at St Mirren. He's done well. He's done very well. They've had to actually, I think they've moved him out wide, Peter, because physically he's just not ready to play through the middle. So they've moved him out wide and coming in from wide areas, getting on the end of things. And he's a great boy. Works extremely hard. I think he'll need to add. He is scoring goals, but he'll need to add more goals. And then I think there's no doubt. I don't think Motherwell could probably afford them the way Ross County are talking, Peter.
Yeah, I'm just looking here, and there's a story just coming up that Alfredo Morelos, this is just a story at the moment in the Daily Record site that says Alfredo Morelos has requested to be transferred to Lille. And this is obviously something that's come out on the social media. Now, obviously, he wants to go. There's no doubt about it. The manager's had enough of him. If that story gathers pace, it's whether Lille will come up with the right amount of money and go back in after being knocked back, Alison. But it looks as if the next couple of hours, certainly the next day, Alfredo Morelos' days or time at Rangers could be well and truly over.
It certainly looks that way, but it also looks as though we're going to start getting to the washing your dirty laundry in public over the next day or two. It's clear he's fallen out with the club and he's desperate to go, and we've seen it all before, the handing in transfer requests and sort of tripping over your bottom lip. But I think the best thing Rangers can do, if Lille are agreeable to coming back into the table, then I think you would want to negotiate for the best possible price. But this is the problem now. If they don't come back, or if they don't meet the valuation of the player, where do you go? Because he's not playing. There's clearly an issue with his attitude and with his temperament. So you have a real dilemma if you can't get him off your hands now.
Yeah, I mean, Roughie, I don't want him to leave, if only for the fact that we talk about him every day in this show. I've never known a man to hog the headlines like Alfredo Morelos. I mean, he's a young boy. Obviously, he's had a couple of years at Rangers where he scored the goals, and you can't knock his goal scoring. The only thing you can knock about him, Roughie, is he hasn't managed to score a goal against Celtic. I think you're always judging scoring goals in big games. He hasn't managed to do that in the Old Firm games, but if Rangers get 15, 16 million for him, I think that's good going.
No, we've seen it through the years. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're scoring goals and you're the main player and you're winning games, sometimes clubs let you away with murder. They give you that wee bit extra. Macca's one that springs to mind at Celtic. The stuff Macca used to get up with, but he would turn up on a Saturday, he'd score a hat-trick, he'd win the game. And Big Billy used to say, look, hey, I'm going to knock it as long as he keeps doing it. If he stops doing it, then there's a problem. Then I have to do something. And that's where he is just now. As Alison said, we'll start hearing stories that he's holding up training. Players are hanging about, waiting in the, doing formations and everything. And you can't do that, not with the level of player that you've got. But every club would have had one. It's how much you let man management, how much you let them away with, and when the line comes, and his line has come, because Steven Gerrard just won't put up with it at all.
Yeah, in 1989, Roughie, were you one of the players that was bad-mouthing Frank McAvenny because he wasn't at training, and then the helicopter came down and just dropped him down in time to make training? I just thought it was hilarious. Every Monday morning, every morning we would all be sitting. You had to be in at 9:30, and that was the first cut off. And 10 to 10 was the next cut off before we ran along to Barrowfield, and that was it. And we all used to sit in the dressing room. There was a clock in the dressing room. We used just to sit watching it. A minute to 10 to, is he going to come through the door? And lo and behold, the blonde Macca would come in with a big smile, and Big Billy's chest would just be deflated because he couldn't find him once more. And then he would just go to training and just score goals for fun. It was honestly, it was unbelievable. Yeah, were you raging more that he made it for training, or raging because he was still going out with a page 3 model?
No, I just wanted to run. I just wanted to be his partner running along to Barrowfield so he could tell me what he got up to the weekend.
Yeah, that would be. It's definitely worth another book if Macca decided to write it. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with this thought, which is Alec Kelly, who's a big Rangers fan, and of course sometimes I smile at some of the comments that Alec makes on here, but he takes it all in good stead from the Celtic fans who have a little bit of a tit for tat with banter. And Alex says Rangers will sell Alfie to Lille for €20 million. Peter, they bought him for $1 million. It's a brilliant bit of business by Rangers. He goes with the majority of Rangers supporters' best wishes, and I think that's a nice way to end it. Alex summing it up. Rangers fans will look back on Alfredo Morelos and think, yep, 2 good seasons of 2 good goals returned, Darren. Well worth going with their best wishes. And of course, if they get that sort of money in the profit, it's good business.
He summed it up perfectly, Peter. He's come. He's done what it said in the tin. He's a striker. He scored. And people think you go to the Old Firm, and I can hold my hand up. I didn't go and score the goals that I'd hoped when I went to Celtic. It's not as easy as people think it is. He's come, and it's just the last 6 months that it's probably soured it a bit. But for Rangers fans, some fans they love a rogue, and he goes about and he fights on the pitch and he gets involved. And a lot of fans love that about their players getting involved and all that. But he scored goals, and as he said, they paid £1 million. They're going to make a hefty profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's all about football. We love talking about it. We love having a bit of banter with you as well. Thank you very much for the countless amounts of messages that come in. Thousands and thousands of people from all over the world that are joining the show. So if you get a chance, share the stream with your pals. Let them join the football family as well. We've got lots of opinion. You can like, share and follow our Facebook page. And of course, I told you that we've got some special news coming up of prizes, giveaways as well for you to get involved in. And if you're on our YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe as well there. It's absolutely free. Hit the subscribe button and join us. From Roughie, Alison McConnell, who at this moment looks rather contemplative there in her final farewell on the programme, and to Darren Jackson and myself, Peter Martin. Until the next time, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit